first time the fox appeared at our family's window, it seemed almost magical. For several mornings, its curious eyes met ours through the glass, as if it had a message to convey. My son, fascinated by the mysterious visitor, insisted on letting it in one day. When he finally did, his face turned pale, and an unexpected series of events unfolded that none of us could have anticipated. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. The mornings had become an odd ritual, with my son racing to the window to greet the fox that appeared without fail. It became a comforting routine we all, somehow, started to look forward to. He began to notice odd characteristics about the animal, its strange markings and almost unnatural behavior. "Look, Dad, it has a white stripe on its tail," he pointed out one day. "It's like it knows us," my son remarked with wonder. These peculiar traits, while intriguing, also raised questions in my mind. Meanwhile, the rest of the family grew uneasy but couldn't deny the fox's peculiar charm. My wife, usually unfazed by wildlife, seemed particularly perturbed. Concerned, my wife suggested contacting animal control, but my son pleaded to let the fox stay a little longer. "Please, Mom, it's harmless and kind of magical," he insisted, his eyes wide with excitement. Reluctantly, we agreed to give it more time. The fox's persistent visits began causing tensions within the family, each member grappling with their own anxieties and curiosity. Unease settled over our home. That morning, as the fox trotted into our living room, my son showed the first signs of fear when he met its gaze. His hand trembled as he slowly opened the window to let it in. Once inside, the fox paused, looking directly at my son with an eerie intensity. "Are you okay?" I asked, noticing his sudden pallor. He nodded faintly but couldn't tear his eyes away from the animal. It trotted confidently through the living room, pausing now and then to examine a piece of furniture or an object. "This is unreal," my wife whispered, her eyes wide. The fox seemed oddly comfortable, as if it belonged here, further baffling us all. The tension was thick, everyone waiting for something to happen. My wife kept her distance, her eyes darting between the fox and our son. "What now?" she asked quietly. My son, pale and silent, watched the fox intently, as if communicating with it. He tracked its every move, his brow furrowed in concentration. "What's going on in that head of yours?" I wondered aloud, but he didn't respond. The fox seemed equally engaged, occasionally glancing back at my son. His change in demeanor alarmed my wife and me. This wasn't the son we knew. He became unusually reserved, and his once lively eyes grew distant. "What's wrong, champ?" I asked, but he just shrugged and returned his gaze to the fox. My wife, increasingly uneasy, whispered, "Something's off." Our son's attachment to the fox was growing stronger each day, and it concerned us deeply. The sight of the fox so calmly nested in our space was unnerving, suggesting it wouldn't be so easy to make it leave. The next few days were marked by unsettling events. Household objects moved, small items missing, and a pervasive feeling of being watched. My wife's favorite vase was found on the kitchen counter, despite her swearing she'd left it in the living room. "Did you move this?" she asked, her voice trembling. Our son denied it, but the confusion in his eyes suggested he was also on edge. My son seemed particularly affected, sleepwalking and experiencing vivid nightmares involving the fox. One night, I found him wandering the hallway, eyes wide open but clearly not awake. "Back to bed, buddy." I guided him gently. The next morning, he described dreams where the fox led him through dark, whispering woods. My wife, worried, said, "This isn't normal." But whenever we suggested distancing from the fox, he grew defensive. It was hard to ignore the growing dread in the house. Each day felt heavier. Strange footprints started appearing around the house, leading to the window where the fox had first appeared. The patterns were odd, not like typical paw prints. I showed my wife her eyes widened in fear. Reviewing the footage nightly, I found something disturbing shadows accompanied the fox, vague shapes moving with it. Determined to understand more, I spoke to neighbors. "Tom, seen anything odd?" I asked. A few agreed to keep an eye out. Mrs. Dawson was especially eager. One night, she reported seeing the fox lead a procession of animals through the neighborhood. "The strangest thing," she whispered. With this new information, I approached my son. "Do you know why the fox comes here?" I asked. He looked down, troubled. "It talks to me in my dreams, Dad," he finally said. My heart dropped. I pressed gently, and he explained that the fox led him to a spot in the woods in his dreams. "It shows me this place, says I need to go there." My wife, listening from the doorway, gasped. The fox wasn't just appearing, it had a purpose. And that purpose involved our son. My wife was horrified, insisting we seek help, but I felt compelled to accompany my son to the location. "We'll find out what this is ourselves first," I said firmly. Reluctantly, she agreed, her eyes filled with worry. The decision was made my son and I would venture into the woods. That afternoon, we planned our visit. My son described the location from his dreams, sketching a rough map. "Here, Dad," he pointed. I packed a flashlight and supplies while my wife hovered, anxiety plain on her face. We trekked into the woods, guided by my son's recollection. At a clearing, we found symbols etched into the ground just like in his dreams. "These are it," he said, pointing. I knelt to examine them. The patterns were intricate, mysterious. Awe and unease hung in the silence between us. My son pointed to a specific spot. We began digging. The soil was loose, and soon we unearthed a small, ancient box wrapped in decayed fabric. "This is it," he whispered, fear and excitement in his voice. We decided to take it home, unsure if it held answers or more questions. That night, we gathered around the kitchen table. The box sat in the center. Inside, we found old photographs, trinkets, and a worn journal filled with cryptic notes. Each item felt deliberate, like pieces of a puzzle. The entries told the story of a past family who had lived in our home and had also encountered the fox. The parallels were uncanny. "They knew the fox as we do," my son whispered, reading along. The photos showed both joy and fear, a family haunted yet connected to the same mysterious presence. My son became even more protective of the fox, convinced it was a guardian. "It's here to help us," he insisted. Despite everything, his belief in the fox never wavered. We continued decoding the journal together, each note unraveling a small part of a much larger mystery. "Look at this symbol," he pointed out one evening. The entries formed a strange, intricate story of people and events entangled with the fox's presence. Dr. Klein, a local historian, suggested the fox might be a guardian spirit, often referenced in folklore. Old letters and documents described previous owners who had also encountered the fox. It had been viewed as a protector or possibly an omen. "They saw it as a guardian," my son read aloud. This shared reverence across time suggested we weren't alone in this strange experience. The stress of it all began wearing on my wife. "We can't stay here," she said, contemplating leaving the house. Her fear was valid, but I couldn't walk away. "We're so close," I told her. The solution felt tied to the fox, and abandoning it now felt like giving up on our son. Old newspapers and property records revealed recurring strange events tied to this house. Past owners had documented rituals and unexplained phenomena eerily similar to what we were living. Eventually, we discovered descriptions of ancient ceremonies, some to welcome the fox, others to banish it. The rituals were detailed, with chants, offerings, and symbolic items. "This could be the key," I said, recognizing the artifacts described in both the journal and the box. Though skeptical, my wife agreed to try. We gathered candles, incense, and the listed objects. The ritual was scheduled on the night of a full moon. Its glow bathed our yard in silver light, shadows dancing across the ground. "This has to work," my wife said, as we arranged everything by the journal's instructions. The air felt electric. My wife held the journal, our daughter lit the candles, and I placed the artifacts in position. The tension was thick. We formed a circle, the fox sitting just beyond the candlelight, watching silently with knowing eyes. As we began the ritual, my wife recited the incantations. Her voice, though soft, carried power in the stillness. Each word echoed into the night, as if touching something unseen. The fox sat motionless, its eyes fixed on us with an intensity that made our hearts race. Every second felt stretched, our senses on high alert. We were in uncharted territory, relying entirely on the journal's guidance. We followed the instructions carefully, reciting incantations and using artifacts as described. The scent of incense mingled with the night air. Each step felt strangely familiar, as if guided by something ancient. The fox remained still and watchful, while the air around us seemed to shift with every chant. The atmosphere thickened, heavy with tension. The fox's gaze seemed to meet each of ours, its presence anchoring the ritual. My wife's chanting grew confident, the items before us seeming to hum with meaning. We sensed we were close to something critical. Each family member contributed. My son held an artifact with quiet reverence. Our daughter maintained the candle's glow. The connection between us deepened, our collective purpose more tangible with every step. Just as we neared completion, a noise outside broke the silence. The fox stirred, signaling something was about to unfold. We turned toward the sound, unsure whether we had succeeded in invoking or repelling what lingered around us. The final words echoed into the stillness. The fox's posture softened slightly, as if acknowledging what had been done. We held our breath, waiting for what would come next. As the air settled, we noticed our son, his color returning, his expression calmer. He nodded and smiled faintly. Relief flooded us. Whatever force had been influencing him seemed to recede. He approached the fox, which nudged a small aged letter from beneath its fur. Our son picked it up carefully and handed it to me. The handwriting was old but clear, an unexpected message from the home's original owners. The fox watched closely, as though guarding its final gift. The letter revealed the fox's true purpose. It had always been a guardian not just of secrets, but of a hidden inheritance. The strange events had been signs, guiding us to what lay buried in our family's history. "It's protecting us," my son whispered, awe in his voice. This was more than a mystery, it was our legacy. The fox had brought us to it with purpose. As we absorbed the truth, the fox turned and calmly trotted toward the window. It paused once its gaze meeting ours, then vanished into the night. Silence fell, deep and meaningful. "It's gone," my daughter whispered, but we all knew it hadn't truly left. Something within us had changed. "We've been looking at this all wrong," my wife said. The fear had dissolved, replaced by clarity and meaning. What once seemed like chaos had become a mission. The fox had revealed our role not as victims of strange events, but as stewards of something sacred. The clue was clear. The fox had led us to protect our inheritance from an unseen danger. The responsibility was now ours. "We need to make sure we do this right," I said. The mystery had become our charge. As reality settled in, our son's energy returned. His laughter echoed through the house, a sound we feared we'd lost. "I feel better, Dad," he said. My wife's relief was visible in every gesture. With our son healed and our purpose clear, our family felt renewed. The fox's visits had changed us, connected us. We understood now. It had never meant harm. It had been guiding us. Though we rarely saw it again, we'd sometimes spot its red coat at the edge of the woods, a silent reminder. "It's still watching over us," my son would say, and we believed him. We were forever changed. The fox's legacy lived with us, its presence etched into our family's story, a story of fear, discovery, and ultimately, unity.